All right, we want to welcome you tonight to the call meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Atoka. This is Thursday, July 14th, 2022. It's 6:30. And meeting is, I call this to order, and Ms. Debbie, do the roll call.
All right, Mayor Walker.
Here.
Alderman Pace.
Here.
Alderman Hopper.
Here.
Alderman Tillman.
Here.
Alderman Jeannie.
Here, ma'am.
Alderman Aiken.
Here.
Alderwoman Renfro. Here. Thank you.
Okay. Strictly here tonight for looking at our water sewer service rates and what we need to do there. Old business is none, so dealing with the new business, you should have a board, you should have a chart stating Town of Atoka statement of business type activities, and it's just strictly a chart. It goes all the way back to 2015. And then you have one statement of business type that they give you that charges for certain expenses from 2015 all the way up to 2022, where we divided them into water and sewer. You see the expenses, and then you see charges for service. Then you go over to the profit and loss, and this is strictly profit loss. It's not of the water that you see. So starting back in 2016, we were having some issues. We came back out of it in 2017, and then you see the numbers. Now, 2021, we came back out, but the government in the audit, if you look at your audit statement of June 30, 2021, is the next thing you should look at. And Mr. Jeff Hunter told us this was going to be, and what kept us in that we would have to address this. So it's nothing that's been hid or how we knew that we were going to have to do this. Business type activities, you go from from expenses to charges for service. You go over there and we were minus 7,341. This is an example of the audit. That's all I'm giving of how they do it. The audit books are over there if you need to see them. And then, and we go down to the investments that we have, which would be insurance, investment earnings, grants, other things that we had, and we've had some grants in this too sometimes. So that would be, that's the 17,807 number you see. So that is really what pulled us out there to the 10,466 to change in net position, and that's what the auditors go by, is change in net position when they audit this. So that's an example of thought it was important in dealing with this. All right, so now we come to the point that in 2020, the MTAS gave us a sheet on proposed water treatment plant and the proposed not having water treatment. Of course, we went with not included a proposed water treatment plant. We went through all that, and then in our board meeting that we referred to, and we went with raising the sewer rate and not water rate. The board did. And so from that, they have been under study. We've been under study since then. It's no secret. We've been under study knowing that we were going to have some issues. Bookkeeping changed in 2022 from having all of it together, and we knew we were going to have to do this, coming out from water fund and sewer fund. And if I'm not correct, they would tell you. So from that, they can tell you more about how the funds were divided. And we've been working with MTASC and with audit auditors and with Billy Harmon and all these to help try to come up with that. So from that, we're here tonight. If you'll go to your sheet in your meeting agenda sheet, if you'll go over to starting with a statement for a conclusion. That's the third page, including the agenda page that you see. The city of Mumford is increasing Atoka's water acquisition cost from $231 per thousand to $244. And the contract says that you cannot go more than what Poplar Grove charges. So they had to stop there. They did recommend $251. And Mark and them, we went through the contract and we caught that and told them they couldn't do that. So they sent a letter back over stating, okay, they're going down, they're just going up to $244. Now here's where it's important to me, all this other stuff, you know, we've tried to do. And we've already told you about the Poplar Grove not charging for from July to February in this, and that totals up to $168,000. That's in 2 paragraphs up where you see the 168, and that's on the table. Now, it's unknown at this point if the WWFB will require the town to recover these funds. But as soon as they discover and communicate, but I think the board will can decide that too. They'll put it on us to decide and what we need to do. But that still wouldn't bring us out of where we are, to me. Here's what's important. They brought back, and through COVID and all of this, it's taken them this long to come up with a solution or recommendations that they have. And the recommendations that they have is at the back page of the memo here. Staff has drafted an ordinance on water and sewer service rates, and the proposed TAUD water and sewer rate adjustment is estimated to create the following, if you'll see. Okay, we'll get into that in just a minute, and Mark, town administrator, will get into that for us, if you will. But if the town does not create the project revenues in both funds, the WWFB will impose whatever rates they deem appropriate. Right now, they're recommending some things to us, and they're hoping that we will, as a board, adhere to that or do what we can for the citizens to not do that. But I will take some fault in this, in that every time that the rates have gone up, we have not gone up too. So that's, we've gone up one time maybe in that point. You've got a sheet there that we've given cost per 1,000 gallons of water rates from July 2014 all the way up to 21. The rates that Mumford had in Poplar Grove and how they increased those years. And we didn't have an ordinance, we didn't have anything in place, which I take responsibility for that we did not go up when they went up with us on that part. So I hope I hadn't muddied it too much and made it some clear part of this. But we're here tonight to try and see what's the best thing to do for the citizens and for everything involved, plus trying to help keep the town, the WWFB from coming in and just taking control and saying you're going to charge this and you don't have any control over it. So this is where we are. So look at your rates on the back part of it. It's recommended. And when we did this, when Mark put this out on the rates, the 425 on the, go to the estimated review for the year 22-23 in your packet, all the way over. It's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 6-page back. You can see that the, what we're proposing for that. $4.25 was put in there by WW people, and $4.38 is what we're going to have to go up to because Mumford was not included in that at that time. And I think Mumford called and told us when was the rates going up, Mark.
When did they do that? I can tell you.
It's in the last week or so, is that right?
Yeah, it's only been in the last week or so.
And then Poplar Grove is gonna stay the same,
That's correct.
244. So that was had to be put in there too for you. And you can look at the ordinance and see why it's from where 335 want to go to 338 is what we're recommending. And then 1025 is the minimum bill that a person can have, and that's keeping it simple. For me, as simple-minded as I am, that would go from $13.85 for the old bill to $14.63 on the new bill. This is me doing calculations. It's not in there. And that would be 78 cents to go up. Is that right?
For the first 1,000.
For the first 1,000. Yeah, I kept it with 1,000. I didn't get into all the complications that you could get for the first 1,000. All right, now from that, Mark, you have anything else to the
Sure. I had asked Munford and Poplar Grove back on the 7th or the 6th of July if they were going to have any rate increases to us. Back on the 7th, Sherry got back to me from Munford, said they were going up from 231 to 251. After we reviewed the contract, I got back with her on the 12th and said, is there a provision in the agreement that Munford cannot charge us more than Poplar Grove charges? She wasn't aware of it, so they can only go to 244. So that was on the 12th that we got that finalized.
So July the 12th.
Correct. So
6 is when you asked them if we were going up.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So originally, this chart here, what you're looking at, Mayor was talking about the statement of activities, which would look something like that, photocopy. I want to make sure that everybody's clear on the difference of what the statement of activities net position is versus what's on your chart here. Difference in the net position and then just your pure operating activities is what you have here. Money in, money out, simple as that. The net position is calculated down here on the bottom, so that takes into account grants, investment income, insurance recoveries, those kinds of things. So that, in this case, as you can see, in 2021, we were negative $7,300. But because of our investment income, that put us in a positive net position. Essentially what that's saying and demonstrating is that the investments are subsidizing the losses in the water and sewer fund. Not that way every year, but I wanted to give you that as an illustration of what audited numbers, the difference in net position versus straight up expense and revenue change.
But we would have had this study sooner for COVID and all this stuff that come about. So they've been putting us off. They wanted a lot of information. We gave them the information. So, and I say putting us off, they just because of the COVID part of it.
And you have a copy of the order in your packet. I think it's stamped when we received it, early December 2020, December 7th. So that's when we received the order. We immediately started putting information together as we had, because we had gotten a letter from the comptroller's office prior to that. I think that was August of 2020. So we've done some things. And you can see what in the order what's required of us. We've fulfilled all of those obligations and submitted all the information. We executed a study agreement with TAUD, who was an expert to be able to do that, approved by Wastewater Financing Board. And then once we had done that, there was some information that was back and forth. They had more questions. We supplied more information. We had more questions. They had to give us some answers. And it's been back and forth and back and forth. There were several occasions that the Wastewater Financing Board canceled the meeting. They only meet quarterly. So pushing everything. Something gets pushed off, it's another 3 months, and another 3 months, and another 3 months. So the recommendation, again, for clarification, that you have in your packet, that looks like that, we got, there's a, I think that first sheet
What page is
dated
that, Mark?
March 23rd. And I'm just using that as the example, Mayor, that they sent these rates over on the 23rd of May. Obviously, we have finished out the fiscal year 22. We know what those numbers are. They're reflected in your chart. You also have the increases over time from Munford and Poplar Grove per thousand. So you guys have that information as well. You can see that Poplar Grove's gone from $2 in 2014 to $2.44 in 2021. They're not anticipating any increases, so that's 44 cents per 1,000 gallons. So theoretically, the cost per 1,000 gallons should have gone up that much. And for Munford, if there's a blank, I didn't have the number readily available. But you can see in 2017, Munford was 201, and now that we're going up to 244. So again, there's 43 cents of increase. We have increased water sewer rates in 2012, 2017, and 2020. So a lot of gaps between 2012 and 17, and gaps between 17 and 20, all when our cost of acquisition has continued to go up, albeit pennies, but those pennies end up adding up when you're talking millions of gallons of water monthly and annually. I don't have to answer any questions if you have.
WWFB is,
Wastewater.
what's on what's on the screen now?
That is
So
from
next year-
TAUD.
Who is this?
These are the rates, so you've got.
Yeah, so every year they recommend that we go up to a dime, basically, to cover what we're gonna be raised.
That's correct.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the projection, right?
Yeah.
So after having conversations with Melanie at TAUD, who's been our main point of contact, talked with her Monday, and she said, I found out about the rates, told her about Munford, shared all the information, the month-end numbers or the year-end numbers. And they were suggesting that we make the change on the rates, include the Munford increase in the rates, and see where we are in 6 months. So we'll kind of be on a 6-month review.
So we'll come, every 6 months, we're gonna be reviewed by
And now we get the time to do it for the new fiscal year as well, so we can try to start off, those rates would go into effect August 1. We get this done by the end of the month.
Just to kind of break it down, a lot of people probably don't even know how many gallons of water they use. Do you have an average of what this is gonna cost?
I don't know, what are we using now?
About
4,000 gallons a month, so you can take your 438 times 4,000 or times 4 plus your 1025. That's what a 4,000 gallon bill would be. So it'd be 2777, and it's currently 2440. So 2440 to 2740. So I mean, it's an increase, yes, but it's not like it's astronomical.
And it's user-based.
It's user based on consumption, yes, sir. The thing that Alderman Harper brought up and pointed out, I'm glad he did, because it created another question, was you can see in your draft ordinance that you've got meter sizes on the sewer side. Those should also be included. I don't know if it would be the same dollar amount, but we should have meter sizes on the water side as well. Of course, you're going on your supply, your ability to supply. You know, the heavier users, if you're going through those big meters, it weighs into that. Maybe Mr. Ellis can speak to that a little bit more, but I know that was one of the recommendations that you guys got back in February of 2020, is to have those meter sizes on your rates.
Mark, when we made the change in the verbiage,
Yes.
where we wanted to make it clear that it was a minimum charge, I mean, this sounds to me pretty clear, but is this using that same verbiage?
Yes, so the minimum is the minimum if you don't even turn on your faucet. It's just
I understand,
the minimum.
but I mean, should it, instead of saying each 1,000 gallons, should maybe it say each additional 1,000 gallons?
No, we took the additional wording out because that
Okay.
implied that you were already getting
Okay,
1,000 gallons.
all right. So this is exactly what we passed previously with the new rates.
Correct.
Okay,
The only thing I would suggest is that we plug in the meter sizes and yet to be calculated what those costs would be. I would think that they would be similar to the sewer side, but we're gonna work on that between now and our second reading.
What's the average residential size?
It's 3/4.
That is the 5/8 to 3/4, yes. So that's that 688 meter size.
Danny's probably got 1 inch, getting more water flow.
I don't know, but I ain't never seen no sewer go out 5/8 inch pipe.
It's the meter size. It's the
Based on
meter
the
size
meter
you're getting
size.
from the water.
And that's what I was curious, why we were having minimums on sewer when the meter's actually the water meter.
Yeah.
And I looked at Mumford and Covington, and they both have the meter size on the water and the sewer.
Mhm.
One question I'm gonna ask, Mark, and of course the estimated revenue for the fiscal year 22-23, of course, this is before the increase coming to us. It says this change will net us, an increased amount of $194,422.27. But yet last year, we ran a $477,000 deficit. And I guess what I need to be reassured of is that I know we had the change in the minimum. I know we had the $168,000 didn't get billed, that's now getting billed. Is that we're confident, or at least as confident as we can be, that this proposed rate will get us in the black.
So if you look at, get the page for you. I think it's the last page in your memo, so this would be page 4, I think, in your packet as a total. That's what we want there. That's it. So if you look, hopefully it's shining, looking on your screen so you can see that this chart right down there, I mentioned it earlier, so we'll come back and go through this. You can see the water fund. So our current water collections revenue, now this is only water collections, this aren't other fees, these aren't anything else, these are just the water collections to make the correlation and the comparison between how TAUD is calculating those numbers. You can see in their numbers, they're basing it on consumption, number of connections, straight up. So we're not including anything else. So it's the GL line 411, so that's the water fund, it's 37,110. So you can see that our fiscal year 22 collections, again, these are unaudited numbers because we just finished, 1.019 million. So as we know, we had a $171,000 deficit. Next line down, so the proposed TAUD water rate would be 10.25 on the minimum, 438 per 1,000 gallons of consumption. 194,156,000 you can see on your TU rate, suggested rates. That is the number that they base that on, so I based it on the same number. With that new rate, the estimated collections would be 1.238099 million. So the difference in that projected revenue, that should put us in the positive by 46,988. Same thing on the sewer. But before I go to the sewer, you see the last line down where it says fiscal year 22 consumption. You can see our consumption was down about 3 million, roughly. So on the sewer side, again, current collections revenue, that's the 412, 37,110, it's just indicating that's the sewer line, the revenues line. See those collections were 1.189 million. We had a $306,000 deficit. We go to the TAUD suggested rate of $7 on the minimum and $5.25 per 1,000. Based on the 204 million gallon number, our estimated collections will be 1.356 million. So that will put us, looking at the projected revenue column, 138,000 still in the red. The number below that, the 67,000, is taking your 8 months of collection that we missed out on from July 2021 to February 22, when we found out that Poplar Grove was not communicated to about changing the rate and changing the methodology that was not consistent with what the town was doing to our own customers. So that's about $8,500 times 8 or times 9. So I factored that revenue source back in. So we should be about 71,000 still in the red. Now, that still has us in the red, but combination of the revenue and control of the expenses, I think we can get that down to at least a break-even point.
But if they don't make us charge, and of course the board will have to decide that, is that right? we don't do that, I mean, we'll still.
Did we,
decide that.
Well, one of the things in, like in your memo, you know, we're doing this business grease-trap pump outs, it's costing the sewer fund $20,000 a year. So we eliminate that, place that back onto the business where it really should belong, that drops your 71 down to 50.
what about the, I guess the 205 million versus 191, 14 million more gallons of sewer going than water charged for.
There is a, bear with me a second, let me find my note here.
Which I imagine part of that's
I think
Poplar Grove.
that's the Poplar Grove, so the Poplar Grove bills our water based on Poplar Grove's water consumption on their side of
Yeah.
their water system, so I think it's about 30,
We sent it, we just didn't charge for it. Basically,
right,
from Poplar Grove, yeah.
right, because it's going into our sewer, they're
Yeah.
supplying the water, I think it's like
Yeah.
34 million, if you had a minute, I could go back through here and find that number, it's about 30-ish million.
Yeah, I didn't think about Poplar Grove.
We get the sewer bills.
Yeah.
Because the first law, I think the water should be higher because of the hydrant meters.
Now, the audit, Mark, and this probably Kevin too, when we changed over and all, it's still we're still in the process of working with, or is it all cleared out? I reckon that's the question.
We're still in the process, that's what Billy and I met with on Wednesday.
He was here Wednesday. Yeah. Okay. All right, any questions?
So, again, taking these numbers, Kurt, if you could put that estimated revenue back up. So when I see, yeah, well, that's not it, there you go. So when I see $194,000 increase, that is, tell me if I might not be stating this right. That is what the state is saying, we're comfortable with, this is where you should be.
At this point, yes.
Right.
And I say at this point is because, as we saw on the other screen, you got a positive on the water side
Right.
after the rate adjustment, it's still in the red on the sewer side. That's why it would be a 6-month review
Right.
from the time of implementation. That would give us
And-
6 months to help control expenses, realize the additional revenue, and then revisit in 6 months.
Before anyone sees a figure like that and says, well, they're just trying to make, they're just trying to put money in their pocket. The way I understand it now, we don't really even have enough revenue coming in to maintain or to improve what we need to improve.
That's correct.
Yes or no?
That is correct.
Mr. Harvey, I wouldn't normally ask you, but I know you ain't been here a long time, so. So,
That's correct.
So one of the things that we can immediately, this has given us some breathing room to make improvements where they're needed and to address issues as they're going to occur. This is what that's buying us.
Yes, so and that's why I felt if you had the audited numbers from the CPA, the audited numbers, that you could look at the simple money coming in, money going out, not looking at investment income or grants or any of that other stuff. It was just simple money coming in, money going out. And what that shows you is you can see that there's a deficit in numerous years, 2 positive years since 2015.
Since 2015.
Now, we're not talking net position, we're just talking money in, money out. The other thing I would say, though, of the projected revenues is that there's still not a lot of projected positive revenue to be able to set aside for capital projects. That is something that has been lacking, in my view, something that's been lacking along the years is that there hasn't been adequate dollars
Right.
set aside for future capital improvements.
Right.
At some point, pump stations are going to need replaced. Infrastructure that's in the ground is going to need replaced. They're going to reach their end of life cycle. Those things are going to need replaced. So rather than having to go out and borrow money, if we were setting aside $50,000 a year to sit into a capital fund like you all have done and had the foresight to do with the fire engine purchase, where some of that money was getting aside in advance. Those are definitely going to come back to catch up to us. But even those projected revenues are just not enough to get there, but I think, again, on the control of the expense side, the additional revenues, I think we'll have to see where we are in 6 months, so. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answered my question.
So I just looked my bill up, it was 3,000 gallons. The 4268 is my bill right now. Or
Is that for water and sewer? or-
Water and sewer.
Okay.
And it would go to 4614. But the water, the sewer is going from 2113 to 2275, and the water is going from 2155 to 2339. If I added that right.
Okay, I'm gonna assume you did.
I would think, why wouldn't the minimum be the same on the sewer tap as it is the water tap?
I know Steve told me that earlier, but I don't remember the answer to that.
Are you saying the 1025
Yeah.
and 7?
Mhm.
That's a good question.
So what did they say? Y'all can't remember?
It was a very brief phone conversation, we connected, it was like 10 after 5, and I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that in his study from 2020, those minimums were different as well. And with and without the plant, they were both different in water and
Right.
sewer.
I just, from looking at, the unaudited numbers, of course, it's the first year we split them, so we really didn't know what we were putting in there. We just kind of plugged some numbers in there. It looked like more money was needed on the sewer side than the water side.
Well, that's the way it's been for, yeah, for years.
Forever.
Sewer, we're gonna lose money from water.
Yeah.
That's, but now, it looks like, Mark,
For that,
for the public, in 2022, water and sewer, it went from the 7,000 from 171 and 306, but in this breaking up, we moved around how we paid some people and put money in a different account. Is that right, from general to that, or what?
Yeah, so the highways and streets was absorbing a certain percentage of the labor costs of the department. Some people were getting paid more out of highways and streets than water sewer, and it was just a bit of an imbalance. So when we consulted with Billy Harmon, our CPA, and Miss Debbie, of course, we thought it was fair because everybody does a little bit of everything. They all touch a little bit of water, sewer, streets. So just the easiest way would just be divide the labor allocation up 33, 33, and 34%.
We had to have some point of entry in how to start.
Yes.
So I've got an auxiliary meter. I see that we're recommending in the ordinance, we're recommending we increase that from $400 connection or whatever fee it is to $900.
Yeah, so that's a good segue into how we come up with some of those other numbers.
Well,
What we
just hold
did-
on a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I see that, and I know right now I pay the minimum. If I use my outside faucets, if I don't use them one drop out of them, I still pay the minimum. So that's currently, I don't have my bill in front of me, but I guess, so right now I'm paying a $10 for that
Yes.
auxiliary,
Correct.
and that gets me how many gallons? 1,000?
$10 gets you the connection.
Okay,
The 1,000 gallons would
Right.
be $3.
That's what I meant. Okay.
Each of the effort
And
to put that
then,
$10.
there's no difference between the auxiliary and the water, or is there, because I'm not paying sewer on the auxiliary?
Correct. So normally it would be all going in through the household, out through the sewer system. So
Right.
the auxiliary meter keeps that water out of the system. You're
Okay.
washing cars, filling your pool,
Right.
and other ancillary things, it keeps it off your sewer bills.
So the only difference between the auxiliary and the regular is the connect fee, or whatever y'all call it. That 400 is gonna go to 900. Everything else is just the normal change, $10 to 10.25, and the rates.
I believe that's correct.
Okay,
So the 900 is 200 more than it used to be before we dropped it.
exactly, yeah.
It was.
Yeah, it went
was
down
700.
It
probably
was.
in 2010, I think, wasn't it, right before we came on board? Right
You
after.
ain't gonna blame it on me.
I'm looking at you.
I think we did.
All paid the 700.
Okay.
It's been since I've been here, but I think you're right, probably like 11 or 12.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
Pretty sure it was 12, like December or so.
I don't know what that is. All right.
All right, any
Go
other
ahead,
questions?
Mark. So Mark, go ahead, and maybe you want to talk about the other things on that page?
Sure. So what we did was we looked at a municipality that may or may not be across the highway, and some of their connection fees. So you can see in section 3 of the draft
It's
ordinance.
the next page, Kurt, I think.
Yeah, there you go. That's good for right now. Right there at the bottom, the connection tap fees. So the primary water connection would stay the same, and the sewer connection for your stake systems and step systems would go from, we didn't break them out previously, but it would just be $1,000 for each style system. That's what Munford is charging. And we looked at, if Munford was a little higher, then we took the higher cost. And if they were lower, then we kept our original cost. We didn't change our cost. We didn't reduce it. Grinder sewer pump installation, the cost on the pumps have gone up. So that increases the cost of hardware wiring and the system. So that needed to go up to $3,500. Making the activation and relocation fees just a straight 85, which is what Munford is doing. And then in section 6, you can see anything that's damaged or destroyed. Some of the prices didn't get adjusted, but some did. Our sewer tank risers have gone from where we were charging $70, but our cost has gone to $243. I think it's like $243. So they've gone up enormously. So making that cost $275, and then on the tank lids, make it at $140 and $400 for the water meter. Thing we weren't doing before, we were only charging for the parts. We weren't charging for
The labor.
any installation. So looking at that $90 an hour labor install, which includes the labor to install and the truck, and that's coming from Munford's fee schedule as well.
So the water, that scale there is, if I take a backhoe and dig the water meter out, it's missing.
If a contractor
Okay.
or a builder, or we've put in a water meter, we put in a stub up, or we've done these other things already as the town's part, and they go in and damage it,
To where it has to be
we're
replaced.
charged. Yes.
I'm about to say, we charge them $700 on the front end.
Somebody runs over a sewer tank lid with a riding lawnmower,
Yeah.
runs it over, busts it up, and this is what the cost would be, that's correct.
Section 7, 1 and 2, both need
Adjusted, yes.
adjusted.
To reflect the $85.
Right.
Correct. And Miss Rachel brought that to my attention after the packet went out.
Don't worry, I had to start.
I'm glad.
All right,
Is there any concern or thought that your primary water connection is $700, with the water meter, but we're gonna charge $900, an extra $200 for a auxiliary connection?
What was that question, John?
Your primary water connection, your water meter for your house is a $700 fee, but we're proposing $900 for the auxiliary meter. We're actually wanting to charge more money for the second meter,
Yeah.
or the second
Sometimes they have
connection.
to actually go out.
We
Like
can
my
make it
house,
the
they
same.
have it automatically built in.
Right,
This way they have to dig down in the ground, set the little box, and then.
make a tap
Or
or,
the other one, so maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, I think I had some labor, when we talked about it, I think it did have some labor costs built into that, I believe. Does that sound right? I don't wanna tell you wrong.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much same labor, same parts. I would make them the same. you know.
Okay.
make them the same.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying go to 600?
We want to do
Seven.
seven or the 900?
All right,
Yeah,
700.
Munford's charging 900 for their auxiliary water connections.
That's probably right.
Now, let me ask you this.
So just to make it clear, Mr. Harvey said, and you said, and now everybody's grabbing pens, we're talking about lowering the auxiliary to match water or raising water to match auxiliary.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask for clarification.
Okay.
So say, do we want to just make them both 900, and
I would say.
What is Mumford's primary water connection?
it may have been lower because we didn't change it. So that 700 is what we had been to, the 600 thing. I don't have that number in front of me, but if we didn't change it, it was probably lower or the same.
I know at one time, both of them were 700.
Yes, because I paid 700 for mine.
Yeah, I paid 100 for mine. so.
I'm good with lowering auxiliary
You mentioned
down
that
to
too.
700.
Make them both 700, make them both 700.
That's, I'm
Well,
good with that, yeah.
Are we gonna have to go up 6 months from now, or what?
Well, we probably only do a few auxiliary meters a year.
Yeah,
It's not
there's
many.
not too many of those going in.
So 700, we're going, so to answer your question, we're going from 900 down to 700.
Well, we're going from 400 up to 700.
Yeah,
All right,
good way,
I'll do
yes,
that.
that's correct.
Correct, so we'll make
My
that
simple
change.
brain is the other way, yeah, I get you. You're right,
It's the difference between me and my wife's shop.
that's right.
Mark, kind of piggybacking off of Danny's question earlier with the lower of the two, you were saying you didn't have the numbers right off. Just running through the February 2020 out plan, they were advising at $9 for a minimum on that. I know that's, now 2 years old and TAUD's gotten involved, but that, just for clarification, that was in there as well.
Yeah, and I think you see those other meter prices in that, and both of those reports with the meter, with the plant, without the plant, and they were much, much higher on those minimum charges,
Right.
much, much higher.
All right, anything else? Any other questions?
Just for my own knowledge, can somebody tell me the difference between the STEG system and the STEP system on the sewer connection?
I'm gonna let you take that one.
One has
I
G, one
know
has
that
D.
much,
One's gravity, one's pressure.
Yep.
Gravity, one
pressure.
has an electrical, one has a pump and a control panel.
Gotcha. And so, are you comfortable that the fee for both of those should be the same? When I hear electrical and pumps, I'm thinking maybe more money, but
Is there
Those are
very
the
many
connection
gravity
fees.
going in now?
Yeah, those are, to answer your question, Danny, hang on one second. But those are the connection fees, the $1,000, and then you've got your grinder sewer pump installation cost on top of the next
we'll
page.
be on top of that.
So that's at 3,500. You had a question, Danny?
I don't remember.
Danny said, there's not too many grinders going in.
No, it's not too many on gravity, right?
Gravity, or whatever.
Not many gravity going
Whatever the G is.
Yeah,
There's not many gravity, no.
right.
That's correct.
Only in the old school side. Or where the $100 water meters were.
Must be me. I got it.
All right, did that answer your question, Alderman?
Yes.
All right,
And of course, looking at the numbers, I would rather, it's never a popular decision for sure, but I would rather start with the 23, 24 numbers.
23, 20.
So it'd be 1035, 435, or I don't know what it would be.
23, 24, you said?
Yeah, 23, 24, so
That's a
1035 minimum, stay at the 438,
Tell me your reasoning behind that,
because it's, we're, we're
get us out of the
gonna
hot
have to go
water,
either way because of the,
get us out quicker.
out of the, where the page is here, we got so many pages.
We're gonna have,
Where it's showing that basically the sewer's still gonna be in the negative.
so are they gonna make us go up at 6 months if we don't? Is that, or
We'll have to
recommend,
have
I say make?
another plan at that point.
You'd have to add 13 cents.
Did you not say that when they sent us their recommendations, Munford hadn't raised rates yet, right?
Correct.
That's right.
Correct, that's why their suggested revenue for 22, 23 was $425 per thousand. So that's the reason for the difference between 425 and 438. It's the difference in the increase for Munford.
But it's not gonna go up until 23, that's when the contract starts, is over, and we start renegotiating contracts, is that right?
Both of our water acquisition contracts from City of Munford and Poplar Grove expire at the end of 2023. So we will start, negotiating towards the end of the year, beginning of next.
Poplar Grove said they wasn't gonna go up any right now, is that right?
That's correct, at least this year. So going into this fiscal year, that's correct.
So on the last page of the memo, Barry, is,
Yeah.
where it shows that, basically the sewer's still going to be in the negative.
Unless we can control expenses.
Yeah, unless we can control expenses. So if you keep I guess we'd take what's recommended for the water, but take the next year's recommendation on sewer. So it'd be,
535.
right,
Inside and outside.
it'll be 535 and 710. All of them will add a dime to each
Yeah.
minimum,
Sit down.
Good time.
and a dime to the sewer.
All right.
Also keep in mind about the grease trap pump out, so that's costing the sewer fund $20,000 a year.
I see it's marked out, but
I saw that too.
So that's part of the plan, that was to illustrate that we wanna try to get rid of that through an ordinance that I know Harvey's working on acquiring, that there was one at his former place of business, so, you know, that would be 20,000 expenses that the sewer fund wouldn't have to absorb.
right.
So then you'd be looking at roughly 51,000 in the range.
But if we
Use this
put the
instead of 17 instead of.
too many numbers here, I gotta get my
Are you
calculator.
gonna keep the water for
Yeah.
changing the sewer?
Right.
717?
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe another 20,000 on,
I like that because the sewer is the majority of our expenses. What I'm concerned about is we're coming up on this renegotiation in a year from now with them. I don't know, well, but you're saying keep the water the same, but they're saying next year raise the water also.
yeah.
They're recommending.
You might keep the water the same for 38.
I'd be fine with
Well-
going 23, 24, water and sewer.
Water and sewer. All right, if we're gonna do it, we'll do it then.
Well, it's something to keep in mind is the cost of water acquisition, which you got a little chart there, you can see that
How much it gonna
almost
be each year?
every year, it's going up a little bit, so I think that that's the methodology between, from TAUD going up a little bit each year to cover those water acquisition costs. And I think, you know, once we get this in place, that these water sewer rates and any fee that we charge as a town will move through the process with the budget. So next year, when we're doing a first reading of the budget, we should do a first reading on all of our fee schedules, any of our fees that we're charging for service, first reading, second reading, and they go together through that process. That'll help keep it on everyone's radar, and that'll help make sure that we're checking the box to make sure we didn't miss an increase where we should have, as we have over the years.
Well, we're gonna have to check that. We're gonna have to remember that.
I
So
think
we're
we make it
saying,
part of
put
the-
it on, review that for me.
So any of the fees or the services that we charge residents for, permits, anything that we're charging to residents, they need to be reviewed annually. And then there would be a first reading on all of those fees or sewer water rates. Any of those fees would go with the first reading of the budget. So you'd have your first reading of the budget, first reading of all the fees, final reading of the budget, final reading of all the fees, so that way it stays together through the process.
I agree with that.
Mark, with the sewer, because I know part of our expenses is the pump out, I guess this is kind of a two-part question. One, can we in-house it a little more than outsourcing with Mid-South Septic? And the second part would be, when is the contract with Mid-South Septic up? And can we rebid that at that point to see if we can get a lower rate?
I'll try to do it in two parts, and I'm probably gonna defer to Harvey on some of that.
Okay.
I'm gonna answer the contract question, but I know Harvey's got some ideas on the road.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I know you just kind of got in and you're starting to look at your footing on it, but I didn't know if you knew anything right away on it.
I have some ideas.
Okay.
To follow through and do some research into that.
All right, hey, we got too many conversations.
Hold on. Yes.
We have not made this.
All right, Harvey, go ahead.
I said, yes, the pumping at Mid-South Septic is a priority. I'm researching now. Hopefully I can come up with some options soon. That's gonna be one of the first things I come up with, other than the valve grease that was mentioned earlier. And your second question, I'm interested
Debbie believes it's gonna be October-ish
Okay.
in the fall. Not 100% positive, but that's what she believes. We'll check.
Well, even if it's just a little lower, you know, every nickel and dime helps here.
So Danny, you gonna recommend 17? Or we gonna stay?
This question is for Mark. In your statistics, do you know approximately how many new homes we did this year? I guess either Mark.
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I don't have the code enforcement report. It would have been in your.
I think it's around 80.
That might sound close to accurate.
The reason I ask is the sewer connection fee currently is the developer puts that sewer in, and so essentially, there's not a lot of expense on the town. So that, again, helps us put those monies in those rainy day funds for improvements to our sewer system. So if this year that we did 80, that's $48,000, right? So we're looking to increase that from 600 to 1,000. But I'm also concerned that just based on the number of available lots, that could drop next year.
It could.
So,
I don't have the budget, this 23 budget, I didn't bring that with me, but
102.
102 homes.
That was perfect.
That was certificate of occupancies
Yeah.
given out was 102 last year.
Does that make sense? So that revenue could drop next year in the sewer side.
Very well, too.
Yeah.
Which if they think that these numbers are good for the first 6 months, I mean, they're the pros.
and that'll give us, 6 months to, that'll give Director Ellis a chance to, get his footing solid and come up with some ways to.
I agree. I don't
Accountability on
want to
expenses.
entice them to raise the rates either.
That's right.
You know what I mean, by going
Right.
too far ahead.
Agreed, and you want to make sure we're charging the appropriate fee.
Right.
And that was part of my concern throughout this whole process is, we don't want it to be too high. We want it to be.
We'll just come get it.
We want it to be just right and have the proper amount of revenues for capital projects and to pay the bills. We shouldn't be relying on investment income and grants to
Exactly.
offset the losses, which is what we have been doing in a few years.
Replacement fees.
All right.
Yep.
All right, as you see the ordinance in Exhibit A, as presented, it's gonna be, the minimum is $10, or excuse me, going to $10.25, and each, 1,000 gallons is gonna be $4.38 per thousand. Is that correct?
The other thing that I would add to that, Mayor, is just a reminder that we will bring you meter-sized connection fees on the water side at the second reading.
On the second reading, meter side. We don't have too many big meters in this town right now.
We'll have to find out. I know that was one of the questions that Steve, let's see if that was in the, I don't think he had a number in there.
I don't think it's many.
The Blue Oval Company maybe get more.
That's right.
Somebody going to, I guess, it's gonna be some jump. They gonna
Less than 50.
Sugar diesel. I changed this to seven. Someone changed it.
Yeah, I don't, he doesn't have a meter count in the rate review.
This was what they recommended, but we don't have to go with that because of nothing. That's all right, Mark, it's just, it's not very many, I can tell you that.
Okay.
But anyway,
So, Mayor,
all right, go ahead.
all right, if we're taking out the grease pumping, and when this becomes in effect after second reading, if we don't have a plan, what happens when y'all get a call for a grease pump out?
Before I answer that, I want to check something.
So, yes, we're going to use the benefit fee. The benefit fee that-
It's free right now, there's no money
The
at all.
business.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we're paying.
Yeah,
And
so it just continues, or we'll have a plan by the
We'll have
time.
to come up with an ordinance
Yeah.
saying that.
Yes, sir.
Currently, based on the list, about half of the Atoka restaurants are being charged and the other half are self-paying. They're just not taking advantage of the free
Barry.
service.
Yes,
On the pump out, we're charging $100, but we are also collecting $50 from the businesses that were, doing the $100 pump out grease trap.
Yes, we did the 50/50.
We did a 50-50 split on it.
We changed that, in one of the ordinances, probably the 2020 ordinance, I think.
It was one of them.
okay,
We went
Does that
back
make
next
sense?
year.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're looking.
Or we'll have a new ordinance
With marked out.
shortly
it's gonna be-
after we do this.
Yes.
That's marked out.
How come we don't have more restaurants that take it such a free deal?
That's what I said.
That's what we're correct.
There was one added.
Mexicans.
I knew that was gonna come up.
All right, so what did we decide on the grease pump?
Does $50 need to stay there?
We can leave it in there for now, and then once the ordinance is adopted, we would reference the new ordinance that would eliminate this $50 fee in this ordinance.
Do you think we can have the ordinance ready by the time of the second reading and do them both the same night?
Second reading's gonna be on the 26th. If this passes first reading, it'll be on the 26th. Second reading, I don't think we can have a first draft before the 26th.
Yeah.
So you're saying no?
You still
I'm
got,
saying no to
we
that.
still got a contract with the grease pumper anyway, right? Or do we? Is it just as needed?
No, it's a routine.
Monthly, isn't it?
And what are they charging the town? What's the pumper charging the town?
$250.
$100 for the grease trap.
You're thinking of the sewer tank, right?
Okay.
Okay.
What's the 250 I saw?
That's Mid-South Septic.
That's the sewer tank pumping.
Yeah.
We're talking about grease
Y'all
trap.
just talking about grease trap.
Grease trap.
Grease trap.
Mr. Harvey, you got that on your radar too, right?
Yes, sir, it's on the list.
All right,
On the
250
sewer
is,
being pumped out?
Yes.
Okay.
So if this is gonna go to first reading and second reading before the ordinance is out, would we not be smart just to change the grease tank pumping to $125? And we're charging for that and cost us $100, but we got some administrative?
I'm fine with that. I have no objections to that. That would at least eliminate the subsidy.
Yes.
So what do you want to do?
I would like to, where it says grease tank pumping, $50, change that to $125.
All right, anybody
Putting it back in, yeah.
got objections to
Is
that?
that okay with everyone?
Sir?
Is that okay with everybody?
As long as
That's
legally
what
it's
I-
fine.
That's what I'm
Yes.
asking for.
Which
It's a
I,
reasonable fee. If we're getting charged $100, we've got administrative costs.
Well, you brought up ordinance, so as long as we don't need a separate ordinance, yeah.
All right, so the changes that I have, grease tank pumping is $125. Auxiliary water connection, we're going from 400 to 700. As John, as Alderman Harper told me. And then nothing, everything else is the same.
no, sir. At the bottom of two, the 35 and the 60's gotta be changed to 85.
Yeah.
What
And
about,
at the top, at the bottom paragraph of two, it still
Section
references the,
Section 7, 1 and 2 has to be changed to
All
85.
those fees will just be
and
85.
at the top, it should be 85 too, of page 3.
I'll put it in.
all right, thank you, Barry. That's why I went over it. All right, anything else on there?
It's just, again, want to make sure it's, the minimums on the meter size for water will be included at the final rate.
You just make sure that when we do it, we'll say that.
Yes, sir.
All right, an ordinance, let's go back through this thing just a minute, let me get my act bill. All right, an ordinance to, review the, water and sewer rates and to, for the Atoka municipality this time for the service rates. An ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 4, 403 and 404 of the Atoka Municipal Code relating to water and sewer service rates. Now, Debbie, you just read that again, I know, but I was just gonna make sure. So, the town administrator, we've discussed this, and this is the first consideration of the ordinance. Is there any objection to reading the ordinance by title only? Hearing none, Ms. Debbie, why don't you read it again?
An ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 4, Section 403 and 404 of the Atoka Municipal Code related to water and sewer service rates.
I make a motion to approve it with adding 125 for the grease tank pumping changing the auxiliary from 900 to 700. In section 7, changing the water service from 35 to 85. And section 2, 40 and 50 both will be changed to 85. And for the second reading, for it to have the meter size for the water on there.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first,
I'll second that also.
Alderman Renfro, Alderman Harper, City, Alderman Renfro.
Put her down for the record, I'm good.
Alderman Redfield for the second?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we have a the second to this. Any more discussion? Does anybody have anything else to talk about with this? All right,
Don't break anything.
hearing none, we'll do the roll call. Alderman Pace,
Yes.
Alderman Renfro,
Yes.
Alderman Aiken,
Yes.
Alderman Giannini,
Yes.
Alderman Fillmere,
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
All right, this is on the first reading. All right, you got that, Ms. Dib? And y'all have the correction back in the second reading, which will be July the 26th.
Mark, or anybody, staff, for the second reading, could y'all put together some sample households and give us the actual numbers of increase we're looking at?
Sure.
I would like that. Just put, I don't care how you do it, do a sampling, pull out
You can use
random.
mine.
You can use
All the Alderman.
Yeah, you can use mine. I'm not average though, probably.
You can
You
use
know.
mine as long as it doesn't say pass through.
You're not average either. You ain't average.
3,000 gallons.
All right, we got it?
Need some teenagers in the house.
All right, you understand? All right, Mark, y'all have that ready?
Yes, we will.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I got a question.
All right,
So,
well, we don't have this concern, but I'll let you talk. Come on,
all right, well,
come on.
question on the ordinance for this labor cost. So $50 plus $9 per hour. Right, so if somebody comes out and changes a lid, is it $5? Is it prorated at $9 an hour, or is it minimum $9 an hour?
Minimum. Is that right?
Mr.
I
Harvey?
mean, I imagine if it takes 30 minutes, it's gonna be $45.
That's what I'm
The
asking.
question is, what would the labor cost be, if I'm right, the labor cost to replace a sewer lid?
Yes.
What would be charged plus the part?
Are we gonna break up an hour, or is it gonna be a minimum hour labor?
Your guy to decide, I would recommend a minimum 1 hour.
Yeah, so if it's minimum 1 hour, that should kind of say minimum 1 hour.
If you ain't there an hour, they shouldn't have to pay for an hour. That's my fault.
Yeah, I took it as,
Yeah. If you're there for
tech
20
support, I
minutes.
use 30 minutes of my 3 hours, I've got 2.5 hours left. That's the way I took it.
That's
If it's 30 minutes, it's 45 minutes, $45, or what I feel. That's how I took it.
That's how I took it.
Because I don't want to pay for somebody, because you can put 10 lids on in an hour.
I'm with him 100%, but the way this kind of is
I'm not here
vague.
to rob nobody.
Yeah, I'm with it, this is plus $90 an hour, so if he comes out, takes 2 minutes, it's gonna charge me $90. There's no prorated in this.
How about,
Well, keep in mind, leaving the shop on wherever it is,
well, I was gonna say maybe a half hour minimum.
half hour minimum.
Yeah,
That seems reasonable.
I think that's reasonable.
Truck. Decent.
Thank you.
One last thing.
So can we change that for the second reading also?
Yes.
That, I don't know if we had a consensus on that.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good with
That's
that.
the way I assumed it
Yeah.
was.
It's gonna have to be in the next, reading.
Right.
We're gonna have some motion on
That's
that.
what I'm saying.
Well, and then the sewer part of this, Danny brought up a great point with raising the sewer to 23, 24. Because right now, even in the black, we got nothing to repair a sewage break. I mean, we do, but, I mean, there's nothing back there. And we haven't seen anything coming from across the highway and them closing roads down to repair. Ours aren't too far behind in some locations. So that extra couple cents, although it is a bad subject for most residents, it's not a bad idea to get ahead of that.
Well, we weighed that out, Mr. Guy and I.
Okay.
Consensus was, we're gonna stick with what they suggested and review it at 6 months, the way I understand, is that
Oh,
right?
that's cool.
Man, believe
But
me,
that's a good suggestion, but we try.
we're all raising.
Not a matter of if, it's a
None
matter
of us
of
wanna
when.
do this.
Right,
Oh, they
I
fixed it.
I was fortunate enough and unfortunate to be part of the whole first 2 years of this, and I get it, it just.
Believe me, it's painful to sit up here and have to look at these numbers and what we have to do. We all pay the same, rates too, and
But anyway,
Sure.
it's just, we're
Yeah,
at
I'll
that
be all
point.
on, I'll be on, you too.
we have a motion to adjourn, we have a second.
Second.
Who motioned first?
Dana.
Of course.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? July the 26th at 6 o'clock, and then we're gonna have